The millionaire visited both of them constantly, moving back and forth between their beds as if they were his two children. He brought fruit for Noor, books for his daughter, and warm tea for himself. And every time he sat in the room, it felt like a small world filled with hope. On the fourth day, the doctor stepped inside with a pleasant expression. "Noor," he said kindly, "you're improving very well. You just need rest, healthy food, and proper care. You're a strong boy." Noor nodded politely. "Thank you, sir." The millionaire felt relief wash over him, a feeling so deep that he exhaled as if releasing months of stress. After the doctor left, Noor looked at the millionaire. "Sir, thank you for helping me. If it wasn't for you, The millionaire placed a hand gently on Noor's shoulder. "Noor, you don't need to thank me. You deserve everything good that is happening to you." Noor lowered his eyes, emotion filling his small face. "And," the millionaire continued, "when you are fully recovered, I want to talk about your future." Noor looked up with curiosity. "My future?" "Yes," the man nodded. "Your future, education, a home, safety, everything you've been denied." Noor blinked, overwhelmed. "Sir, I don't know how to go to school. I don't have books. I don't have papers." "We will make everything," the millionaire assured softly. "I will take care of the rest." The girl clapped happily from her bed. "Noor, you'll be with us more. You can study, and you can help other kids too." Noor's lips trembled. The idea of a future, a real future, felt like touching the sky for the first time. That afternoon, when Noor felt strong enough, he asked if he could help the girl again. The doctors said a short session would be all right if Noor didn't push himself too hard. So he sat beside her, his hands steady and warm, guiding her legs slowly. She lifted her foot a little higher today, a small movement but a huge victory. When she succeeded, she cheered with joy, and Noor smiled brighter than he had in days. The millionaire watched them both, and his heart filled with a warmth he hadn't felt since she first fell sick. This wasn't just physical healing, it was emotional healing. For all of them. 3 weeks later, something beautiful happened. The girl stood. Not for long. Not perfectly. But she stood, holding the side rail of the bed, her legs trembling but strong enough to carry her for a few seconds. The nurse gasped. The millionaire covered his mouth, tears flooding his eyes. Noor stood beside her, ready to support her if she needed it, but he didn't touch her. He stepped back and whispered, "You did it." The girl's eyes sparkled with tears. "Papa, I'm standing. Look, I'm standing." The millionaire held her tightly and cried softly into her hair. Noor watched quietly, his eyes warm and shining. He wiped them quickly with the back of his hand, but this time they were tears of joy, not pain. The doctors confirmed her improvement. They scheduled regular therapy sessions and said her recovery looked hopeful. Very hopeful. That evening, the three of them sat together, enjoying the soft glow of sunset through the hospital window. The millionaire turned to Noor and said gently, "Noor, I want you to become part of our family." Noor's breath caught. "Part of your family?" "Yes," the man said with a warm smile. "You've already given us so much. You've given my daughter her strength and given me my hope back. You deserve a home, a real home." The little girl clapped her hands. "Say yes, Noor. Please say yes." Noor looked from the girl to the millionaire, then down at his small hands. He had never imagined something like this. A home, a family, love, safety. His voice trembled as he whispered, I would like that. Very much." The little girl cheered, throwing her arms around him. The millionaire gently ruffled Noor's hair, and for the first time in a very long time, Noor didn't flinch from the touch. He leaned into it, accepting affection he had long been denied. Months passed. The girl grew stronger. Noor joined school with her father's help. He learned quickly, and on weekends he volunteered at therapy centers, helping other children with gentle exercises, just the way his teacher had taught him. The millionaire watched with pride, knowing he had gained not just a helper, but a son. And Noor? He finally had what he never dared to dream of: a family, a future, and a place where he truly belonged. The warship drifted through the silent dark like an old metal giant that had forgotten how to move fast. Its engines glowed a dull orange, slower than every other ship in the fleet. Even the smallest scout vessel could circle around it 2 times before the huge ship completed one turn. Because of this, every species in the galaxy had one nickname for it: the slow human warship. And they mocked it. They laughed when they saw it. They joked that humans built ships the way ancient species built temples: big, heavy, and useless. They said the ship looked like a tired whale lost in the middle of the ocean. But humans never argued. They simply whispered that the ship had a purpose no one was ready to understand. On this day, the slow human warship was moving toward the golden swirl of a gas giant. Around it, dozens of sleek alien ships glided with grace and speed. They moved like hunters, confident and proud. They belonged to the Allied Frontier Fleet, a group of different species working together to stop a new enemy rising from the far edge of the galaxy. But none of them trusted humans completely. Humans were the newest species to join the alliance. Too emotional, too unpredictable, too slow. And nothing showed that more than the old ship they sent to help. Commander Aris of the Vora species watched the human ship on his display with annoyance. "Why do they even bring this thing?" he muttered. "By the time it turns its guns, the enemy will already be gone." His second officer gave a small mechanical laugh. "Maybe humans think war is a relaxing hobby. No rush." Aris shook his head. The battle ahead was too serious for jokes. A strange and powerful enemy, known only as the Shade Wraiths, had destroyed 3 frontier stations in 1 week. No survivors, no signals. Only burnt metal drifting in space, and now they were coming here. The fleet moved into position. Fighters spread out like tiny sparks of light. Frigates and cruisers aligned their weapons. Energy shields shimmered across every hull. The air inside each ship felt tight and heavy. Everyone knew what waited beyond the clouds of the gas giant. Everyone except the humans, Aris thought. He opened a comlink. "Human Commander, do you copy?" a calm voice replied. "Copy. This is Captain Reese aboard the Terran warship." Aris kept his tone polite but cold. "We will engage the enemy soon. Try to keep your ship out of the direct fight. You will not be able to maneuver fast enough." There was a long pause, as if the human captain was choosing his words carefully. Then he answered, "Understood." But something in his voice felt strange, almost like he was hiding something. Before Aris could think further, a sharp alarm cut through the channel. "Enemy contacts! Multiple signatures emerging from the gas giant!" Screens across the fleet lit up with red markers. Dozens of dark shapes rose from the swirling storm layers of the planet. Their hulls looked like shadows given form, smooth, black, and shifting, as if they were alive. Their engines made no light. Their weapons gave off no heat. They looked like ghosts carving up the void. The Shade Wraiths had arrived. The alien fleet reacted instantly. Fighters rushed forward at top speed. The first volley of plasma and laser fire tore through the space between the 2 sides. Explosions flashed like rapid sparks in the night. The Wraiths moved faster. They cut through the first line of fighters with impossible speed. Their ships didn't fly. They glided, almost drifting, changing direction without losing momentum. It felt unnatural, wrong, terrifying. "Pull back! Pull back!" Aris ordered. But it was too late for many pilots. The Wraiths fired strange pulses of energy, silent and dark, that passed through shields as if they were thin paper. Ships exploded without warning, disappearing in bursts of metal and flame. The fleet started to break formation. Panic spread through the comm channels. Officers shouted orders. Pilots screamed for help. Aris felt a cold wave move through his chest. They were losing too fast. Then something unexpected happened. One of the Wraith ships turned toward the slow human warship. Several alien captains laughed bitterly. "That thing will be torn apart in seconds." "Maybe it will finally prove useful," someone joked. But as the Wraith ship approached, the humans did not try to run. They did not panic. They did not even adjust their position. The giant vessel stayed still, almost waiting. Aris watched with confusion. "What are they doing?" Then the human ship's engines shifted from dull orange to brilliant white, glowing like small suns. A deep hum vibrated through space, a sound so low that even the sensors felt it. Panels along the warship's hull slid open. Massive energy coils unfolded from its sides. Lights raced across the ship like awakening nerves. Aris stared, frozen. This was not the behavior of a slow, helpless ship. Captain Reese's voice came across the channel again, but this time it was firm, controlled, and impossibly calm. "Alliance fleet, stand by. The Terran vessel is activating primary system." "What system?" Aris demanded. The human captain answered with only 5 quiet words. "The one everyone mocked for years." The warship's core roared to life, and the enemy was about to learn why humans never needed speed. The glow from the human warship spread across its dark metal body like fire waking inside a sleeping mountain. Every alien ship nearby slowed for a moment, confused. They had never seen the old vessel light up like this. For years it had been quiet, heavy, slow. Now it looked alive, powerful, and strangely dangerous. Aris stared at the sensor display, unable to understand what he was seeing. Human ship. "What are you activating?" But Captain Reese did not answer right away. The only reply was the deep, rising vibration that filled the space around the Terran warship. The massive energy coils locked into place. Strange, glowing lines along the hull connected, forming patterns no alien in the fleet had ever witnessed. The Shade Wraith ship racing toward the humans did not hesitate. It fired a dark pulse, the same deadly attack that had destroyed so many fighters. The pulse cut through space like a shadow made of blades. Every alien watching expected the human ship to break apart. But the pulse hit and vanished. It didn't explode. It didn't crack the armor. It simply disappeared, swallowed whole by the glowing shield around the warship. A silent gasp moved across the Alliance fleet. How is that possible?" Aris whispered. Another Wraith ship attacked, then another. 3 pulses struck the human ship directly, but each one vanished like smoke hitting a wall of light. Then the Terran warship finally moved. Not fast, not with speed, but with purpose. It rotated its giant body, slowly turning until its bow faced the heart of the enemy formation. The white glow from its engines pulsed, not for movement, but for charging some deeper system. A new voice came from the human ship, robotic and calm. "Primary weapon coils at 80%. Stand clear." Aris's eyes widened. Primary weapon? That ship was not listed to have one. No one in the fleet had ever heard of humans possessing a superweapon. Humans were known for creativity, bravery, strange emotional speeches, never for advanced war machines. And yet the Terran ship kept charging. A low alarm rang on Vora command decks. Officers pointed at their screens. "Energy spike from the human vessel. Levels are rising beyond capital class limits." That was impossible. Nothing that heavy, nothing that old, should hold energy beyond the largest dreadnought. Still, the warship glowed brighter and brighter. The Wraiths noticed. Their formation shifted. Dozens of black ships turned toward the humans. Their movements became sharp, more aggressive. They began to surround the Terran ship, like wolves circling a wounded animal. But for the first time, the Wraiths felt hesitation, The humans had something they did not understand. Eris swallowed hard. "Terran ship, stop! You will tear yourself apart!" Finally, Captain Reese spoke again. "Negative. This ship was built for this moment. You wanted us out of the battle. But you never asked why we came so slow." The words carried weight, almost sorrow, as if humans had waited too long to reveal their truth. The first wave of Wraith ships opened fire at once, launching a storm of dark pulses. The attacks hit the human ship from all angles, but again every pulse vanished, consumed by the glowing barrier that now wrapped tightly around the Terran hull. "Primary coils at 95%, the automated voice said calmly. Inside the alien fleet, no one spoke. The human ship was not defending itself. It was preparing to strike. Eris finally understood the strange design, the oversized hull, the slow engines, the thick armor. This ship was not built for speed. It was built for something else entirely. "Human captain," Eris said slowly. "What is that ship?" Captain Reese answered the way only a human could, softly, almost sadly, but with unmistakable pride. "It is the first Terran gravity forge." Silence. Every officer in the fleet stared blankly at their displays. The name meant nothing. No alien database held any record of such a weapon. "What does it do?" Eris asked. Captain Reese took a long breath. "It takes the weight of a star and turns it into a weapon." Before Eris could even react, a deep tremor swept through the battlefield. The glowing lines on the Terran ship connected into one blazing point at the belly of the hull. Space around it bent, twisted, and warped like the surface of water being pulled downward. The Wraiths felt it too. They turned sharply, trying to break formation, trying to escape, but it was already too late. Around the Terran ship pulsed once, sending a ripple outward. Every Wraith ship touched by the ripple slowed, as if invisible hands were gripping them. "Primary coils at full charge," the automated voice announced. Captain Reese gave a simple order. "Fire!" A sphere of distorted space blasted outward. Not bright, not loud, just a silent wave that carried the crushing pressure of a collapsed star. When it hit the nearest Wraith ship, the craft folded inward like paper. No explosion, no fire. It simply compressed into nothing. The rest of the fleet watched in stunned horror as the wave continued, swallowing 3 more Wraith ships in seconds. The aliens had mocked the slow human warship. Now they feared it. The battlefield fell silent again, except for the faint hum of the human vessel preparing another charge, and the Wraiths, for the first time, began to retreat. The battlefield went quiet, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. The human warship floated at the center of the silence, its hull still glowing with the fading light of the gravity forge's first shot. The massive weapon coils hummed with leftover energy, faint but dangerous. No one dared move too close. Across the fleet, alien captains tried to understand what they had just seen. The Shade Wraith ships were known for speed, strength, and impossible attacks. But now 4 of them were gone, erased in seconds by a ship everyone once called slow and useless. Eris watched the strange warship on his screens. A part of him felt relieved. Another part felt uneasy. "Humans, what have you been hiding all this time?" he whispered to himself. Allied officers spoke over comms with disbelief. "Is that thing even safe? How did they build such a weapon? They kept this from the Alliance. Why?" No one had the answer. Then the silence broke. A high-pitched signal echoed across every ship in the area. This time it wasn't human or Alliance technology. It was the Shade Wraiths. The sound vibrated like a cold whisper crawling through the hull. Eris froze. "They're communicating." The signal changed into a deeper tone, rhythm repeating every few seconds. It wasn't a message. It was a call. More red signatures suddenly appeared on the sensors. Dozens, then hundreds. The gas giant below them twisted as new dark shapes rose from its clouds. The wraiths had not retreated. They had gone to summon reinforcements. The first wave had been only a scouting force. Captain Reese's voice cut through the rising panic. "All Alliance vessels, stay calm. The Terran ship is recharging. Hold your positions," Eris answered sharply. "Recharging! You cannot fire that weapon again. It will tear open space. It will—" "It won't," Reese said. "It is designed to use gravitational compression, not create a singularity." "That is not reassuring," Eris muttered. But there was no time for debate. The second wave of Wraith ships shot forward, their movements sharper than before. Their formation was tight, almost perfect, as if controlled by one mind. They moved like dark blades, slicing through space. The first attack began instantly. Hundreds of dark pulses burst from the Wraith fleet, forming a storm of silent death. The Alliance ships dodged, rolled, and returned fire, but too many enemy ships were approaching from too many angles. A Vora cruiser exploded on Eris's left. A Chiron frigate vanished on his right. Panic returned to the fleet like a spreading fire. "Where is the human weapon?" a captain shouted over comms. Eris scanned the Terran ship. The glowing coils were bright, but the energy was not stable yet. "They need more time," he said. "Time is what we do not have," the captain yelled. The Wraiths pushed forward. Their attacks targeted the human ship directly this time. They wanted to destroy the threat before it fired again. A cluster of Wraith fighters sped toward the Terran ship from below. They flew in a perfect spiral, releasing pulses in tight formation. The pulses hit the human shields. This time, the glow trembled. Eris felt a chill. "The shield is weakening." On the Terran bridge, Captain Reese's crew moved fast. Engineers shouted over the comms. "Core temperature rising, holding at safe level. Coil stability at 70%. We need 90% for safe discharge." "Keep working," Reese ordered. His voice stayed calm, but his eyes showed the pressure. If the weapon fired too early, it might destroy everything, including the humans. Outside, the Wraith spiral formation kept tightening. Their attacks hit the same spot over and over. Cracks of dark static formed on the human shield. If the shield collapsed before the gravity forge was ready, the Terran ship would fall within seconds. Eris could not watch any longer. "All ships, move to defend the human vessel. Form a barrier around it." Several captains refused. "Why would we protect them? They hid technology. They put us in danger." Eris cut them off. "If that human weapon does not fire, we all die today. Protect them." Reluctantly, the alien fleet obeyed. Dozens of ships rushed toward the Terran warship, forming a shield wall around it. They fired everything they had: lasers, plasma, missiles, creating bright lines of light that crossed the dark battlefield. Explosions lit the void, pushing the Wraith fighters back, but not stopping them completely. Inside the Terran ship, the automated voice spoke. "Primary coils at 89%. Almost there." Captain Reese gripped the rail beside his command chair. "Come on, come on!" Eris's ship took heavy fire as it moved into position near the Terran vessel. The hull shook violently. Sparks flew from consoles. Officers yelled warnings. "Shields down to 40%. Multiple Wraith ships inbound. We cannot hold much longer." Eris looked at the human warship, still glowing brighter each second. He knew he had one choice. "Terran captain," he shouted, "you must fire the moment you reach 90%, even if the blast hits us too." Reese answered calmly. "Understood." The Wraiths formed one final deadly line, ready for a massive synchronized strike. The automated voice spoke again. "Primary coils at 90%. System stable." Reese didn't hesitate. "Fire!" The gravity forge roared to life for the second time. But this blast was far stronger than the first, and the entire battlefield felt space itself bend. The second blast from the gravity forge was nothing like the first. The first had been controlled, focused, almost precise, but this one This one felt like space itself shivered. A deep wave spread outward, bending the stars, distorting light, making even the strongest ships feel as if invisible hands were pulling at their hulls. The Shade Wraith formation broke instantly, their ships twisted, their perfect lines collapsing as the gravitational surge hit them like a tidal storm. The first row of Wraith ships folded inward just as before, crushed into tiny fragments without even a spark of fire. The next rows tried to escape, but the wave caught them too, spinning them out of control. Some ships collided with each other. Others spiraled away, drifting into the void without engines. The alien fleet watched the destruction with fear and awe. Aris gripped the edge of his console. The pressure against his ship was heavy, like the air was pushing him down, even though they were in space. Sparks flashed across the bridge. Several officers struggled to stay on their feet. But the human ship remained still, standing inside the storm it created, unmoving like a giant carved from stone. When the wave finally faded, the battlefield went silent again. Dozens of Wraith ships were gone. No one cheered. No one spoke. Every member of the Allied fleet stared at the Terran warship with a new understanding. Humans had been hiding a monster. Aris tried to speak, but his voice came out thin. "Terran ship, report your status." Captain Reese answered after a long breath. "Shields at 20%. Coil temperature rising. We cannot fire again soon." He sounded tired but steady. Aris nodded even though Reese couldn't see him. "You bought us time. We must use it." But the time was short, because the battlefield was not empty. 2 Wraith ships remained, larger ones, shaped like curved blades. They had moved back during the blast, avoiding the destruction. Now they hovered at the edge of the battle, silent and watching. These were not scouts. These were commanders. Their hulls rippled as if shadows were crawling beneath the metal. Strange symbols glowed faintly across their sides. Everyone in the fleet felt it, the weight of something ancient, something far stronger than the smaller Wraith ships. Aris swallowed. "The real fight is coming." As if hearing him, the 2 command ships began to move, slowly, carefully, studying the Terran warship like predators watching a wounded prey. "Why aren't they attacking?" one officer asked. Reese answered first. "They are learning." A single cold thought passed through every mind in the Allied fleet. If the Wraiths learned how the gravity forge worked, they would adapt. And next time, the weapon might not save them. Aris shivered. "We cannot let them study us. We must strike first." But the Terran ship was not ready. The coils were still cooling, glowing too bright. A third blast now would break the ship apart. The Allied fleet formed up again, though their formation was weaker. Ships floated with damaged hulls, flickering shields, broken engines. The Wraith commanders began moving in a slow circle, observing every angle. Then, without warning, one of the command ships fired. It wasn't a pulse. It wasn't a beam. It was a silent ripple in space, a black wave that moved like a shadow sliding through water. It passed through the fleet without hitting anything, yet every ship it touched flickered as if something inside had been disturbed. Aris checked his systems and froze. What was that?" Engineers shouted from every corner of the fleet. "Power signatures unstable. Systems fluctuating. Something is draining us. We are losing shield energy." The Wraith command ship fired a second ripple. This one was stronger. Every Alliance ship felt the hit like a cold wind. Shields dimmed. Power cores trembled. Lights flickered across decks. "They're weakening us," Aris said softly, "softening us before the kill." Captain Reese heard it too. "We cannot let them continue." "But your weapon needs time," Aris warned. "Then we will buy it," Reese replied. Before Aris could respond, the Terran warship moved. Slowly, painfully, its heavy engines pushed it forward. The ship shook, engines sparking. Damage alarms flashed across its hull, but still it moved, toward the 2 Wraith commanders. The Allied fleet stared in disbelief. "They can't take those ships alone. They will be destroyed. Pull back, humans!" But Captain Reese's voice came through the comms with calm certainty. "If they learn our weapon, the galaxy will fall. Better they focus on us than all of you." The Terran warship advanced, glowing faintly, wounded but unafraid. The two Wraith commanders shifted position. They understood the challenge. They accepted it. Aris knew the truth then. The humans were not brave because they were strong. They were brave because they were willing to stand alone. He clenched his fist. "All ships, follow the Terran vessel! We fight together!" The Allied fleet pushed forward, gathering what strength they had left. But the Wraith commanders were ready. Their hulls split open, revealing swirling dark energy inside, like miniature storms contained in metal cages. They were charging something far worse than pulses. Aris whispered, This is not good." The battlefield shook as the commanders prepared their attack. The Terran warship moved closer despite the danger, and above them, the coils of the gravity forge continued to cool. Too slowly. The two Wraith command ships opened fully, their metal plates sliding apart like blades unfolding. Inside, swirling storms of dark energy spun faster and faster. The space around them bent and twisted as if reality itself was being pulled apart. Every ship in the Allied fleet felt the pressure, like a heavy weight pressing down on their hulls. Aris gripped the rail on his command deck. "They are charging something massive. All ships prepare defensive measures." But the truth was painful. Most ships had no defense left. Shields flickered weakly. Power cores were unstable. Engines coughed and sputtered. The fleet had already given everything just to protect the human warship earlier. Now they were fighting on hope alone. The Terran ship kept moving forward, slow but determined. Sparks ran across its hull. Some panels were torn open, revealing glowing coils inside. And still, it pushed toward the two command ships. Inside the human bridge, Captain Reese watched his monitors carefully. "Status of the gravity forge?" the engineer answered with urgency. "Cooling at 40%. We cannot fire it yet. If we do, the ship will collapse." Reese nodded. "Understood." Then softly, "We just need a little more time." But the Wraith commanders were not giving time. Suddenly, one of the command ships released a long, dark beam. It wasn't light. It wasn't energy. It looked like a crack in the universe itself, stretching out like a black blade. It struck a nearby Alliance cruiser instantly. The ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply vanished, cut cleanly in half, both pieces dissolving into dust. A wave of fear moved through the fleet. "What kind of weapon is that? No shield can block it. They are tearing space open." The second Wraith commander fired its beam, hitting another ship. That ship twisted, bent, and folded like soft metal before disappearing completely. Aris felt cold sweat on his palms. Those weapons, they're not meant to damage. They're meant to erase. He looked at the Terran ship again, still pushing forward, still glowing faintly, still refusing to turn back. A thought struck him hard. They're trying to cut through to the human vessel. Because the Wraiths understood the same truth Aris did. If the human weapon fired again, the Wraiths might lose everything. The command ships turned their beams toward the Terran warship. "Captain Reese!" Aris shouted. "Brace for attack!" The first beam fired. It sliced through space toward the human ship like a black sword. But just when it was about to strike, a small alien frigate moved into the beam's path. It was destroyed instantly. The crew didn't even have time to scream. Aris froze. Why would they do that? Another ship moved forward, blocking the second beam, then another and another. The Allied fleet, alien captains who mocked humans, doubted them, feared them, were now sacrificing their own ships to protect the Terran vessel. Captain Reese watched the destruction with heavy eyes. "They're giving us a chance." "Cooling at 50%, the engineer said. Still not enough. The Wraith commanders grew impatient. Their beams fired faster, striking any ship that moved too close. The fleet grew thinner by the second, the battlefield filled with debris, drifting metal, and fading lights. Aris's ship shook violently as a pulse hit its side. His crew struggled to keep control. "Shields down to 10%! We cannot take another hit. We must retreat." Aris looked at the Terran ship, then at the massive Wraith commanders. If they ran now, the humans would die. If the humans died, the Alliance would fall. And if the Alliance fell, the galaxy would belong to the Wraiths. He straightened his shoulders. "Hold position, until the end." His officers stared at him, shocked, but nodded. Suddenly, the battlefield shook again. One of the Wraith commanders released a new pulse, different from before. It wasn't a beam, it wasn't a ripple. It was a shock wave of pure darkness that moved outward in a ring. The wave hit Aris's ship first. Consoles exploded. Lights shattered. Crew members fell to the floor. Systems went offline one by one. Then the wave reached the Terran warship. The giant ship trembled violently. Its engines flickered. Several lights went dark. The glowing coils dimmed dangerously. Inside the human bridge, alarms screamed from every corner. "Major damage on the lower deck! We've lost secondary power conduits. The gravity forge is destabilizing." Captain Reese steadied himself with both hands. "Divert all remaining power to the coils. Everything, even life support." The engineer stared at him. "Sir, if we do that..." "Do it." The ship darkened. The air systems slowed. Panels lost power, but the coils grew brighter again, slowly, painfully. "Cooling at 70%, the engineer said softly. "Almost there." But the Wraith commanders were preparing their strongest attack yet. Their hulls opened farther, revealing swirling storms so bright and chaotic they looked like holes into another dimension. Dark lightning crackled between them. The space around them twisted into long spirals. Aris whispered, "They're combining their power." He was right. The two commanders aimed at the Terran ship together. If the attack landed, nothing would remain. Captain Reese watched their charging energy on the screen. His eyes hardened. "We need just one more minute," he said. But the Wraiths were not going to give them a minute. They fired. Two beams of pure void shot toward the Terran warship, and the humans had no shields left. The two void beams rushed toward the Terran warship like twin blades meant to end everything. They cut through the dark space with silent speed, tearing small cracks in reality as they moved. No shield, no armor, no ordinary weapon could stop them. Inside every Alliance ship, crew members watched in horror. Some whispered prayers, some held their breath, some lowered their heads, expecting the end. Aris closed his eyes for a second. He had seen many battles, but never a weapon that made space itself scream. "Terran ship, please survive," he whispered. The beams reached the Terran warship. A deep, heavy sound echoed across the battlefield, like metal groaning under impossible weight. The hull glowed violently where the beams struck. Lines of bright cracks spread across the armor plates. Pieces broke away and drifted into space. Inside the human bridge, sparks exploded from the ceiling. Crew members grabbed onto consoles as the entire ship trembled. "We cannot hold! Structural failure on multiple decks! The beams are cutting through!" Captain Reese's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Divert all power to the core stabilizer. Keep the coils alive." "But, sir..." "Do it." The bridge shook again, harder this time. The beams pushed deeper, bending the hull inward like soft metal. But somehow the Terran ship remained standing. Not unharmed, not safe, but still alive. Then something unexpected happened. The Allied fleet moved. Damaged ships, weak ships, nearly broken ships. All of them surged forward, putting themselves between the beams and the Terran warship. A small insectoid frigate drifted in front of one beam and vanished instantly. A reptilian battleship slid into the path of the other, its hull collapsing like dust. A Chiron destroyer followed, taking the beam's edge before spinning away in pieces. One by one, ships fell. They were not strong. They were not fast. They were dying ships, but they formed a wall made of courage, loyalty, and the desperate hope that the humans could save them all. Aris' crew stared in disbelief as their allies gave everything they had left. The captain felt something tighten in his chest. "They're protecting the humans," he said softly. His sensor officer nodded. "They all believe the same thing now. That the Terran ship is our only chance." Aris took a deep breath. "Then we join them." He turned to his pilot. "Bring us in front of the Terran warship. Maximum speed." "But Captain, our shields—" "Just do it." The Vora cruiser accelerated, engines screaming, forcing its failing hull forward. The crew braced as they moved into the path of the wider beam. The beam hit the ship like a silent tidal wave. The entire bridge shook. Consoles broke. Lights shattered. Aris was thrown to the floor, pain shooting through his arm. He forced himself up, gripping the chair to stay standing. We blocked it," the pilot said weakly. The ship was dying, but they had stopped the beam. For now. Inside the Terran warship, alarms filled every corner. The engineer shouted above the noise. "Cooling at 93%! We're almost ready. The coils are stabilizing." Captain Reese wiped blood from his forehead and stared at the display showing the Wraith commanders. Their storm-filled cores spun wildly as they prepared another attack. They were angry now. Reese knew the next strike would be the final one. "How long until we can fire?" he asked. 30 seconds. Outside, the two Wraith commanders shifted their massive forms. Their symbols glowed brighter, pulsing with dark energy. They were charging another combined beam, stronger than any before. Aris's damaged ship drifted in front of the Terran vessel, barely holding together. "Captain," his officer said, voice shaking, "we cannot take another hit." Aris looked at the Terran ship behind his own. So many had died to protect it. Humans, aliens, species that never agreed on anything until today. He nodded slowly. "I know." The Wraiths completed their charge. Black lightning wrapped around the long, blade-shaped ships. The space between them twisted into a swirling vortex. Aris whispered, "This is the final strike." Inside the Terran ship, "Cooling at 96%. Just a little more. Hold together. Please hold." Captain Reese closed his eyes for a brief second. "All hands. Brace." The Wraith commanders fired. Two beams exploded forward with impossible force, shaking the battlefield and leaving trails of darkness behind them. They headed straight for the Terran warship and the few brave ships trying to shield it. The Allied fleet watched helplessly. 15 seconds until firing!" the engineer shouted. The beams were almost there. 10 seconds! They cut through debris. 9! They sliced through one more defending ship. 8! Aris's cruiser shook violently as the beam approached. 7! The Terran ship trembled, its coils glowing white-hot. 6! The beams came closer. 5! The gravity forge hummed. 4! Space shook. 3! The Wraiths roared. 2! Captain Reese opened his eyes. 1! The battlefield held its breath. The battlefield froze in silence as the beams of void closed in. Two great blades of black energy, born from the Wraith commanders, cut through space with a force meant to end everything. Humans, the fleet, the war. At the same moment, the final number echoed inside the Terran warship. 1. Captain Reese stood tall, gripping the rail with both hands. His voice was calm, even as the ship trembled under the pressure of its enemy. Fire. The gravity forge unleashed its third and greatest blast, but this blast looked different from the first two. It was brighter, sharper, more focused. The energy didn't just ripple, it folded space around it. The moment the forge fired, the battlefield seemed to pause, as if reality was caught between two breaths. Then, the gravitational wave surged outward like a growing star of white light. The wraith beams collided with it instantly. A deafening silence followed. Light and darkness crashed together. The wraith beams bent, twisted, and then shattered into fragments of shadow. The wave continued, pushing deeper, slicing through the attack like a blade made of pure gravity. The Allied fleet watched with wide eyes as the impossible happened. The Terran blast was stronger than the combined power of the two command ships. The wave reached the Wraith commanders, and they tried to escape. Their engines flared. Their storm-filled cores spun wildly, but the gravitational force grabbed them, pulling them backward like giant beasts caught in a whirlpool. One commander tried to fire again, but its beam collapsed before it formed. The other tried to retreat, but its hull bent inward as space tightened around it. Eris stared at the screen. They're breaking apart. The first command ship cracked open. Its swirling core spilled out like dark mist before collapsing into a single point. The ship folded into itself, shrinking smaller and smaller until it disappeared. The second commander resisted longer. It howled with a strange metallic echo as it pushed against the gravitational wave. Symbols glowed violently across its hull.